Hello, and you're very welcome here to episode 60 of the Football Fanatic podcast. Dan Coulter filling in this week for Declan O'Connor, who was last seen on the whiskey yesterday, roaring around the neighbourhood of Spittle saying City are back. So we will have no Deck this week, but I'm sure we will have him back at some point, possibly next week. We're delighted here to have Ronan Hammer. Ronan is a West Ham fan who was on the podcast before, and we're looking forward to talking all things West Ham. We'll also be looking at, does Ange need to go? What's happening over the red side of Manchester? What's happening to fumbling Gunners? And all other things in the podcast, anything else football related, we'll be discussing. We're going to start with the West Ham way, but before we do, gentlemen, how are we, I suppose?
All good,
lad. Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
Excited to hear the West Ham way now after all this time.
This has been hyped up for so long. What is the answer?
We are about to hit new heights here. Episode 60, you know, we're going to be hitting new heights here. I reckon we'll predict 10,000, I reckon. Ronan, we're going to start with West Ham. All joking aside, it's been a difficult season so far. I know it's not been the first and won't be the last. But we're going to start with kind of just West Ham. The West Ham way is something that we've talked about here in the podcast. Even the mighty David Moyes brought it up. It was brought up on his one-on-one with Simon Jordan about the West Ham way. So we're going to kick things off with that first question before we go into Lopetegui, Potter and all that. The West Ham way, does it exist? What is it? Tell us.
Well, at this moment in time, I wouldn't say that it exists. It probably harks back to the days of the 60s and the academy, and you know, it's probably days when, you know, players passed the ball, moved the ball quickly, kept it on the deck, played for the badge, and that's all West Ham fans want to see. You know, what from going to the games, all the fans want to see even now is just effort put in. You know, effort, and if there's effort put in, there's 100% shift put in amongst the team. If you could lose, even if you lose the game, you know, they'll be applauded off the field. But you know, as regards the West Ham way, it's all about trying to pass, play football as it should be, keep the ball on the deck, all that sort of stuff. And it probably harks back to the academy days when, West Ham are still kind of known as the academy of football, I suppose. Like, they were renowned for bringing through, you know, the kids from the local area. Mark Noble, as an example, Rio Ferdinand, Frank Lampard. You know, whether that's still relevant in this day with so many foreign signings coming into the club, I don't know. But like the West Ham way, for me, I don't know. Is it still in existence? It's a results-driven business, as we all know today. So you know, under Moyes, we had the counter-attacking style of football, which so many fans did not agree with, even though we got results at the right times. And now with the appointment of Lopetegui, people were hoping that we'll go back to more traditional style of football. That hasn't worked out. Now we're on to Potter, so we'll see if the West Ham way will re-rear itself, you know.
Okay. And I think that would that be right in saying that kind of under Moyes, that was something that kind of under that counter-attacking style, the fact that Moyes maybe wasn't playing that attractive of football, even though he brought success and plenty of it, in fairness, over a couple of seasons, although in the end that last season wasn't a great season by any stretch. But is that kind of, do you feel that part of the kind of culture that you just referenced there, is that part of the reason why he in particular, now he's not the only and not the first manager that, I think there's been a few others, and you've got a reference about me, Ronan, that have come in and not played an attractive style. But then I suppose you could argue maybe some of the ones that did, or maybe tried, you know, that it didn't go well either. So, you know, do you think that was a big factor in the demise, I suppose, of Moyes? Because it had been toxic on and off, even through some of the good times. The second there was a bit of a bad run, it was always kind of, Moyes needs to go. And not saying that was all West Ham fans, but definitely there were sections. Anytime things got tough, it looked like, you know, they wanted to push, you know.
Yeah, well, like, I'm only speaking from my own personal perspective. Like, you know, when Moyes was relieved of his duties there in the summer, like, you know, a number of people I would be following on social media, like a large swell of people were so delighted to see the back of him, because, you know, obviously the last 6 months of his term, you know, the results were paltry, and in the main, his style of football wasn't getting us the results. We had been found out It was he was seen as kind of a one-trick pony, so to speak. Sit, absorb, and break. And when that didn't work for us, if we conceded first, it was always very hard for us to get back into a game. I think like in that second half of we were sixth at the end of the 23 going into 24. We only had less than a handful of wins then in his last 6 months. And
he spent quite a bit of money, hadn't he, as well, in that last season. He spent. There was quite a bit of money spent, whether it was in the sign the players or not. There was still a good bit of money spent in that summer. Yeah,
there was, but I think what he had brought to the club, for me during his term, obviously we had that night in Prague in June 2023 that will resonate with me forever. We had the 6 to 7. He saved us from relegation twice. He had about a year and a half in the Premier League where performances and results didn't go his way, and a lot of fans still would kind of know him for that as opposed to his achievements. They respect him for what he did, but the fact that he just worked with a small squad, wasn't interested in big in the squad. So he worked with about 12, 13 players all through his last season in particular, but in the main he just liked to work with a tight squad. And when there was injuries, there was no one strong to come off the bench to make an impact, and he wasn't one for bringing through the youth either. So he was literally relying on the same 12 or 13 guys, and if they weren't up to scratch, they still seemed to get a game week in, week out, And when he left, I suppose I was probably not delighted to see the back of him, but he gave me the best moment of.
The time had come.
The time had come, yeah. I think, and he actually realised that as well, that the time had come for him to move on to pastures new, and for someone fresh in the dressing room to talk to these players we'd worked with for so long. But as I said, his style of football is not conducive to the West Ham way, so to speak. So a lot of fans still hark back to that style of football where football is played as it should be, and under Moyes,
But
many
Ronan,
references.
Can I ask, that style of football, how far back are we talking? When did this term West Ham way rear its head? Because are we Alan Pardew now? Wouldn't when under his tenure, I wouldn't say you'd call it that free flowing attack of football. Are we going? Is there I suppose a timeline?
You're looking at
football. The Canio kind of, is it? Are we talking then?
Yeah, that era. Under Redknapp, we played some lovely football. You know what I mean? We came 5th, 1998 in the Premier League. It's our highest finish to date in the Premier League. We came 3rd in the old First Division in 1986. I had just kind of got into West Ham then. We had that was under John Lyle. That was the West Ham way as well. You're going back to the Ron Greenwoods of this time in the 60s. John Lyle then carried that tradition on. We had a period there with Lou McCarry where it wasn't definitely not the West Ham way, but when Redknapp came in, it definitely went back to the West Ham way. But even Redknapp, I think he was interviewed recently, Harry, and he said, "What is the West Ham way anymore?" So at the end of the day, all of us here, we're all football supporters. We want our team to win on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday. All you want to see is 3 points on the board. If it's a scrappy 1-0 and the ball is launched from right full to left wing and you get a goal out of it and you win the game 1-0. You know what I mean? I'd rather be I'd rather be a happy boy at 5 o'clock on a Saturday than we passed it 485 times till you got hit for 3.
It's a bit like the Ireland manager. Remember the senior team? A bit of like that. Do we just play the Route 1 under Martin O'Neill, or do we try do something a bit more elaborate?
But I would sorry to cut across, Howie. I wouldn't people always say Moyes is Route 1. He wasn't Route 1. You know what I mean? He tried to play football when he could play football, but it was mainly absorb and counter. And he was. When we got our results in Europe, now I know you'll say it's only the Carabao Cup of Europe we won, but that means so much to us as fans. None of those clubs would have had an idea of how we played our football. You know what I mean? So, and obviously, you're being found out at Premier League level because it's a higher level of football altogether. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let's just bring it on, I suppose. Then, so you reference again around identity. So then we get to the appointment of Lopetegui, who came in with quite a decent pedigree, I guess you would say. But given what you've referenced there, they were struggling to score goals struggling to keep goals out. It seemed to be slow, lethargic. Again, going from what you said there, it didn't seem to be the West Ham way. But I suppose 130 million in around that spent. He was given money. What happened? I think it was his 20 points or something or 23 points in 20 games. So what is it? What is it in your opinion that went wrong with Lopetegui, a manager who's come in with an awful lot of experience?
145, I think, damn close to spent. Really, like, you know what I mean. As my mates keep slagging me, did you not win the transfer window? You know, so. But yeah, it's apparently now from speaking to people who go regularly. Now I've been over a couple of times this year, but like even from speaking to people over there, it's apparently his main thing. It was kind of apparently dictatorial in the dressing room. There was no. It was like when you got to training, there was no banter, there was no camaraderie. It was his way or the highway.
The Lopetegui way.
The Lopetegui way, you know, and there was no freedom of expression, so to speak. And there was also, personally, from me looking at him in pre-match interviews and post-match interviews, I found it hard to understand what he was saying. And apparently that was the issue in the dressing room as well. Like all the staff were of Spanish origin as well. So it was very hard to communicate his message across to the players. And according to one particular guy I know, he was telling me that the players down tools on him after the Brentford game.
Right.
There was at halftime he took off Mohamed Kudus, and they came to blows, and the whole thing just started to fall apart. Then similarly with the Arsenal game, how he took off Tadibo at halftime, and Tadibo had to be restrained from him. So obviously there was a sourness there. I actually thought after the Leicester game when we were beating 3-1 that they'd let him go at that stage.
It seemed with him that I mean, brought this up on the podcast there a few weeks ago that every time it looked like he was near the door, he'd get a win. And it was kind of happened a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, where it was like the talk was, will he be removed, will he not? And then he would get a win. And there was 1 or 2 even 6-pointers that I think he kind of got the 3 points. But I suppose you said there, it was only kind of papering over the cracks.
Papering over the cracks. And like even like in our Athlone Hammers chat group, we were just obviously particularly after the Leicester game, I said, there's no way he can stay on after this. Like, and then he pulls out a result, went up to James's Park 1-2-0, and you're just going, where's that performance been all season? And then any time we conceded 1, we were going to concede 3 or 4. And like if you're going into a game knowing you have to score at least 3 or 4 to win a game, you're at nothing. You know what I mean? And then you're highly relying on your like Gareth Bowen and these guys to dig you out of the hole. And unfortunately, he's injured now, so there's no one to dig us out of a hole. And we were conceding on average about 20, 22 shots per game. It's only a matter of time then that, you know what I mean? You know, you're not gonna hold out.
Yeah. So going on then. So the change came, and we had the mighty Potter. And as I said to you, was it going to be magic at West Ham, or was he going to send him to the Deathly Hallows? A Harry Potter reference for anyone out there listening. So. We've 2 games in. It started with a bit of a bounce, and then you messaged me saying how bad the game was against Crystal Palace. But just I suppose on Potter, were you happy when his name was mentioned as coming to take over?
For me, I wanted him after Moyes. After Moyes left, like he was there. Whether there was still the issue with Chelsea paying him, or if there was some sort of terms and conditions in that old contract, whether he couldn't go into a job in the summer, I'm not too sure. But like. He for me was the standout candidate to come in from Moyes. I think like he was available, but apparently it was Sullivan, the owner, who wanted Lopetegui in, given like that, you know, this guy was so-called big shot. He was with Real Madrid, he was with the Spanish national team. He was also free. So, you know, having not worked out, I'm glad Potter is in. Now, will he be able to wave a magic wand in the next 4 or 5 months? I don't think so. There doesn't seem to be any incomings this month. We're shorn of offensive players at the moment. Somerville's out injured. Bowen is a massive miss for us. He's not due back till the end of February.
What did you make of the bid today?
I think that's just a phantom bid for me. That's just Sullivan just saying, you know, lads, I got it wrong with Lopetegui. You know, but you know what I mean. I'm still looking out for you. I'll throw out this phantom bid today. Like during the summer, we wanted Duran. and then we end up a Fulkrug. Like you couldn't get more contrasting players like Fulkrug has he scored a couple of goals. He's hardly kicked the ball in anger for us, you know. You look at Duran, young, hungry, runs the channels, the type of player you need in your team, in the team that's kind of transitioning. Like Fulkrug, you know, he's not a 90-minute player anymore. Like he'd hold up the ball. He actually, in the last couple of games he played before he tore his hamstring against City, I actually thought he was growing into the role. But for me, you need a young guy running the channels. Like Duran, I would have burst a bank for him in the summer. But so there's kind of a conflict going on there between Sullivan and Tim Steiden, our director of football, who is allegedly making the signings. There's kind of Sullivan is kind of throwing him under the bus for the signings at the moment, and now he's come out today with his phantom. It's a phantom. He's 57 million allegedly. Like you're not
57 million,
You're not going to get Duran for I'd say 75, given the start of the season anyway. You know, but I can't see that materialising. Like, and then it was so ironic. I said to him, I was over at the West Ham Aston Villa first game of the season, and Duran was out in the warm up, and the whole West Ham thing was still on the rumour mill. The Villa fans were booing him when he was out in the warm up, when he comes on and gets the winner. Like, how ironic, you know what I mean? And then he signs a new contract within the week. You know, so if we were to get him, it would be a great piece of business, but I can't see anything happening in January, you know.
Well, the last question I have here, just maybe on so Potter takes over, you know, quite low down in the table. Like, what for you are, like, what can Potter do between now and the end of the season? Like, what would be a successful season for West Ham? And do you think then that they won't strengthen in January? Will they give him money? You don't think they will?
I don't. Like, Sullivan now will point to the fact that he's had to pay off Lopetegui, he has to pay off his team, so there's not as much money in the kitty as there would be for transfers. That's the kind of guy he is. Like, he kind of seeps this out to the media, you know what I mean? And he'd go at the angle that fans wanted a manager change, they got their manager change, so he can work with what he has, you know. So I can't see anything coming through the door this month, but he's got, you know, I've been happy with what I've seen of Somerville we got from Leeds. Unfortunately, he's injured now at the moment. I don't know when he's back. Bowen obviously is the big miss. He's not due back till the end of February. Kudos's form has fallen off a cliff. Like, they're talking about 85 million for him. You wouldn't get 8.5 at the moment the way he's played. Paqueta is not the player. There's just so much going wrong with the team as a collective at the moment. There's no mobility in midfield. You've got Alvarez in there, like he wouldn't turn in an empty fair green car park, you know, and it's just like we got Rodriguez in there, World Cup winner from Argentina, hasn't adapted to the Premier League from Real Betis. Souček is a warrior. Like, I've so much time for Thomas Souček, but he's not going to be bombing up and down the pitch. Like, we're so easy to run to him in field, and that's where the initial issues are happening.
Yeah.
Then you got Mavropanos there at the back. Like, he wouldn't look out of place with Banner United at the moment. He has a mistake in him every game. He was sent off there on Saturday, which is the Reef, so I won't have to look at him next Saturday. But then you're left with Killman. He's the only fit centre half we have going into the weekend.
It costs a lot of money as well, yeah.
Killman lost 40. It cost 40 million, but in fairness to him, he has been decent. Yeah. And like Wan-Bissaka has come in there. Like what he good to me probably our signing of the summer, but still kind of naive defensively. He's never where he should be.
He's
as a United fan.
United fan, having watched him, his positional sense is atrocious, and that's why he's so good at slide tackling, because he had to make up for it all the time in his development. Yeah,
like he's what has taken me by surprise. Going forward, he's offered us quite a lot, but positionally, he has a zero aptitude for his position on the pitch when the ball is even on the far side of the pitch and it's being whipped in. Like he's either not there or he's too far tucked in. Like, we've lost so many goals down that side of the pitch this year, like, you know. But like, having said that, I can't knock him. Like, he has been quite. That aside, offensively, he has been good going forward for us, and we kind of needed him because Bowen normally works that side, and with him gone, Wan-Bissaka is kind of thrust into a kind of a right wing back role now at the moment, you know.
Would it be just then I suppose a top 10 finish be seen as kind of the best to hope for?
I would, like, traditionally, look, I'm supporting West Ham since 1982. Like, we've finished fifth, we finished sixth, we finished seventh. Like, traditionally, we're mid-table, really, or just below mid-table. We would. I don't fear us being relegated to too much dross at the bottom of the table, but I would say it could be 12th, 13th is where we finished. Like, we've 26. I was talking to Dan Seary earlier on. I was telling him, we were saying, how in God's name do we even have 26 points? Is that just we've been lucky? Is it the standard of the Premier League is just so bad that we've been picking up wins? Like, we haven't drawn too many matches, so we either win or lose. So that's where. Yeah. So I'd say another 3 wins would be fine.
Massey, or before we're going to wrap up this section, was there anything else you'd like to ask Ronan, West Ham related, before we move on?
I'd just like to ask, do you think Potter will be given what he needs to adapt the squad with poor purchases during the summer, with the internal conflict that seems to be a constant issue with managers? Like, there was a conflict between the sporting director and Moyes in his time, and you're saying between ownership and his directors and stuff. Do you think the background is there for Potter, who came from a club whose biggest success was at a club like Brighton, who have this fantastic structure? Do you think, and then went to Chelsea, which lacked a structure and clearly struggled with it? Would you have concerns in relation to Potter and how he adapts, and will he be supported as a club?
What I would notice from Potter in his first few sound bites, Massey, was he made an awful lot of referencing to the academy, using the young players. So obviously in this window he must know that there's obviously no funds to be made available to him. We had a debutant there on Saturday, Massey, a young guy called Lewis Orford, who's been spoken highly on, but it's hard for him to come into a team that's not confident. You know, he was thrust in there in the middle of the park. Now, he did okay. He did, he got on the ball, but he knocked it left, right. There was no creativity out of him. We have a young guy started there, Scarles, left full. Very good player, very good prospect as well. He's done it anytime I've seen him this year. As regards, I assume as part of his initial interview, like he would have to be promised some funds during the summer window to work with what he has, work on what he has there. But I'm not too sure what the figures are with ourselves and PSR either in that regard. So, what kind of stood out to me, Massey, was his referencing of making use of the academy, what the club was supposed to be renowned for. So, will he be given funds? Probably. Will he be given funds to the tune of 150 million, which was given to Lopetegui this summer? I can't see it, but there is so much deadwood in the side that needs to be shifted. The problem is who's going to take them off their hands. Like who's going to take it? Danny Ings, who's another year on his contract, like he's on about 125 grand a week, like 32 years of age. Like, who's going to take him off their hands? So, and at the moment he's our only fit striker in the squad too. So, when you sit down to look at him on a Saturday afternoon, you're in bother. So,
yeah.
Look, to the answer, look, he probably will be given funds, but players will have to be shifted out. Will he be given 150 million? I can't see it. And we don't have someone of Declan Rice's ilk to sell for 100 million either. So therein lies the issue.
Yeah, right. But we're gonna move on. Thanks, Ronan. For that, we will be going back, referencing back to the weekly review he mentioned this ad on the performance of West Ham versus Palace. But we're going to kick on then with the weekend review, and we're going to kick out our weekend review, and we're going to firstly start with a question. I'm going to go to you. Are City back?
Are City back? No, not fucking close to it. Ipswich were the biggest down creators of this. They made it easy for City. City, yeah, they were better. The first, you said yourself, Dan, in the WhatsApp, like 45 minutes, they were excellent. They were much better. But like, Ipswich kept creating their own problems. Like, they were trying to play total football and they were playing no football. Like, I felt like they were very naive. Yeah, like I just they played in City and it was an easy game for City to look very good. It's like Southampton looked like world beaters against United, like during midweek, as in you can make a team look good. And I felt like Ipswich did their best to play into City's hands. And to be fair, City are starting to motor a bit more. Like Phil Foden's starting to look sharper. We said it a couple of weeks ago that he was starting to look glimpses of himself, but he was definitely more on it. He's Highland score on the score sheet, and De Bruyne are playing well. Like they're all good signs for City fans. But look, I heard Schwarzer, who's the goalkeeper, retired goalkeeper, saying that City are back, and could be the closest challengers, and I was skeptical of that. I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to get some sort of run together, maybe push for second, but I can't see them making a realistic push for championship this stage. But it's an upturn in form, and which Deck will be delighted to hear.
Yeah, I suppose like it was 6. It could have been more. I haven't seen Haaland have that much space to go on and stride and run. Like he's so quick, isn't he? When you see him in full stride, but the amount of space that him, the likes of De Bruyne, Foden, like they haven't had that for most of the season. And what I will do is I will give confidence. Howard, what do you think?
Yeah, it reminds me of a game that City could be playing next year in the lower leagues. Like just has that stench of like Haaland running riots, scoring nearly double games. That's all. I wouldn't be surprised if Ipswich is down there with them. So it could be a fixture to look out for in the future. City Ipswich. No, it was too easy, way too easy for them. They're all celebrating on the back of Haaland's luscious locks and his new contract. So
look, talk about that. Go on, talk about like we put into WhatsApp the figures, the mouth-watering sums and the timing of it and the length. Like it's mad, isn't it?
It's 115 months is the length of the contract. So it's unusual.
Wow, imagine that.
9.5 months or 9.5 years, 115 months. Like surely there's some subtleties there that City are trying to get at. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it seems like a bit of a play from City in that regard. I think with Pep and Haaland, the timing of it, right in between where the case has stopped now and the commissioner gone off to make their decision. I think there's a bit of a play there in like, right, let's show everyone we're coming out with a strong voice and show even the commission that like, we assume ourselves not to be guilty. So let's show
reckons money that's what Deck reckons though, isn't it? Deck reckons that
that's what makes sense. I think like for me,
I don't think a player of Haaland's quality and ambition
there has to be a clause in it.
Accept something like that without some sort of reassurance.
They will be sworn to life that they cannot announce the release clauses, but there's 100%.
David Ornstein on the Breaking of the Story said that there were no release clauses in his initial contract. There was release clauses in relation to Real Madrid and Pep leaving, and in this 9.5-year contract, which is basically 10 seasons, that there doesn't seem to be any release clauses without paying the release.
Yeah, I heard that sentence that the release clauses from his existing, I think he said the release clauses from his existing contract have gone. But that doesn't mean that there's a relegation release clause in there. And look, I would be shocked if there wasn't. Man, I would be shocked. Like Haaland wouldn't be playing down in the Championship or League One unless they're not going to get punished.
What's 1/9 of your 10 years at the club, I suppose, in the lower leagues? I don't know.
But like that's the question, wasn't it? Like the Jack was kind of saying, like obviously he feels that they have some sort of information that it's not going too bad. Otherwise, why would said Pep be signing back on? Why would Haaland be signing this big contract unless they have some sort of indication from how the case has gone that it's not going to be bad, that it might. I even read like again, it's only just hearsay, but it was around it being that maybe it might just be a fine. Which would be laughable if that is the case. But that's kind of that's what Deck was trying to kind of spill. He was kind of spilling that into the WhatsApp, I think, around. Yeah, that's what he was thinking.
They may as well throw out PSR or financial fair play if it's just going to be fine
aside from all the implications that go with it, what ifs, what maybes come up with it, it's an insane amount of time to sign a player up for. Like anything could happen.
It's a Chelsea job.
There could be an amazing decline in that player, and you've committed to paying 26 million a year on a player into his mid-30s. Like, I know it's the way they're going. It seems to be the way things are progressing. With Cole Palmer seem to be kind of the first in the Premier League of the side, but it just seems like a ridiculous commitment. You have no idea who your manager is going to be, how the dynamics of the club are, and if you after 3-4 years you want to leave, you're looking for someone to pay an absolutely insane amount of money to release a 5-year contract. Like, it just seems to be a
There's
very
more. I think
weird
there has
decision.
to be more to it. There has to be more to it than what we're seeing, because it's a very much a statement amount of time and a statement in general for a contract for that length. Like, and the timing of it, it's all very poignant, I think, in the whole grand scheme of things. And
very
like,
PR savvy anyway.
It is. It's like their best player, their most, their biggest asset, and they're tying down for this length. It's all very 500 grand a week. Like these lads have like bucket loads of money. Like, these are the same lads that are paying Ronaldo 200 million over in Saudi Arabia per year. Like, they're like if you break that down, Haaland's on 10 times less than that. So this is peanuts for them. Like, in the grand scheme of things, this is peanuts. So like, I wouldn't jump in and say, oh my God, all the money that they're giving. They'll spend as much money to make as a statement. Like, if it means them looking like they're going to get away with it, then they'll do it. If it gives them a 5% extra chance, like, they'll fucking do it. Like,
that's I suppose we'll wrap up the City talk for now. Just finally, they are looking at the next week. The talk is that they'll have 3 players signed up, potentially looking at maybe a midfielder as well. But Abi Kush, as we named him in our WhatsApp, from Uzbekistan, Omar Marmoush from Frankfurt, and then I can't remember, they're another young Brazilian, isn't it, that they're signing too. So they all seem to be, they all seem to be near completion. So it'll be interesting to see if they can. I was just looking at, just to reference our next fixtures, it's Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, Spurs, and Forest is our next games in the league. So we'll know after them 6 games of whether they're back or not. Anyway, but we're going to move on. And my next question, I'm going to go to you, Ronan, actually first on it.
No worries.
Big Ange, we had another, I suppose, capitulation of Spurs in a first half of the game. So there's a lot of questions around his future, which has been an ongoing thing for. Seems like an eternity now this season, that there's been question marks over the Postecoglou style of play. Granted, there is a lot of injuries, but the question I suppose I have to the 3, and I start with you, Ronan, is the time running out? Is the flame about to be blown? And is he one result maybe away from getting the chop? Or what's your feeling on it, firstly?
I don't know what you're talking about, mate. I don't know what you're talking about. I honestly,
he looks defeated though. He looks defeated.
He does. But like, I do believe if they weren't in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup, he'd be gone. Yeah, genuine. Because look, they're like, I watched them yesterday. Like Everton, had scored 1 goal since the turn of the year, or even if I don't even think they had scored 1 goal since the turn of the year, and they played them off the park in the first half. Like, it could have been 4 or 5. And I know the media are saying they've loads of injuries, etc., but like, he looks like a defeated man there on the sideline. He looks like a man that's just about to combust, and
I'd say
he's under a lot of pressure, Dan, as we know, and like, the team's confidence must be at an all-time low as well. And no matter what formation he tries, what personality he puts in, he just can't seem to get a result at the moment. And
he is having a horrendous, like, we talked about injuries before. I know like Liverpool had a horrendous run where they were playing their kids not so long ago. Like, he is, like, they lost Johnson and Solanke from their midweek game.
And there's no he was saying there's no potential return date on those guys either. But look, every team has to deal with their injuries. Like, Spurs are, like, I have to laugh. Like, they're renowned as one of the Super Six, like, you know what I mean? But could be one of the relegation 6 now at this stage, because the only like the loving by the media for Spurs is just off the charts, like, you know what I mean? I just don't get it, like, and like, even Dawson was in the studio after the game yesterday, and he was like making excuses about and started with a 3. Takes a long time for players to adapt to playing into a 3. Then he switched to a 4 and there was a better response. Why didn't he start with a 4? And you're just thinking, like, go out, you're playing Everton, a team so low on morale, so low on confidence. Get at them, get an early goal, kill the game. They couldn't even do that. So, whether that obviously stems from the manager. Are the players believing in Ange anymore? I don't know. But like for me, Dan, if they weren't in the Carabao Cup semi-final, he'd be down at the job centre.
Howard, what about yourself? I'm sure you're loving this. And sure,
Howard is crying in salty tears there, all right?
There is a level of the pain you see in Ange's face. I think is seeping down through the squad. That the confidence is zapped from him, and it's also zapped from the players. But I really do feel I have a little bit of a soft spot for him. I do feel bad that the injuries that they've gotten have been horrific. You know what I mean? Now that's not to say they shouldn't be losing them games, but you know what it's like when you get into a bad form. It's a snowball effect. You're in a dark place and you can't get out. So I know probably won't work out in the grand scheme of things in the future, but I would give him more time if I was the Spurs owner. I just think once they get Romero, Van der Ven back, playing just the two centre halves, leave the keeper, just have them two centre halves, and hopefully that's I think the end of January. And if they get that, I think they stand a bit of a chance of starting to. I wouldn't like to play them near the end of the season because I think they're going to get better and better as the year goes on because they can't get any worse for that squad. I think your man Bergvall looks like a baller. Archie Gray looks good. So to have a couple of young lads in there that are decent, and Spence has played well. But and that helps. Sometimes when you get all these injuries, it helps to give other lads a chance, and then they can kind of be integrated into the team when the other lads come back. So I think they're 24 points now, 2 points behind the West Ham way, and it doesn't make for great reading if you're a Tottenham fan. No. And as you said, Ronan, they're in the bottom six, let's say, relegation battle rather than the top six scenario. But I can't see it getting much worse from here, honestly. Maybe from February onwards, I expect them to start ramping it up a bit more.
It'll be interesting to see will he be there. And the final say we give it to you, Moss. Ange Ball, what are we thinking?
Ange Ball, I suppose I don't really see the merit, and they're not making anything out of this season at this stage unless they win the Carabao Cup, or the FA. They're still the FA Cup, yeah. Or in Europe, they're doing quite well in that. So he's got a terrible injury record. I spent all last season listening to Ten Hag, or at least a third of it, talk about our injuries, and we were still shit when he got the players back. So when things have got out of hand, it's very hard to pull them back. So I would be skeptical if he's really going to be able to turn it around. I balance that then with thinking, well, what's the point in changing now? No one's really going to bring you up to European places for the money you'll have to pay off his contract, bring in someone new, and you're probably not going to get relegated. So is it worth your while? Wait till summer and then have someone come in at a fresh start. He also wondered, would Levy learn from previous experience of finding a manager before the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup final in Mourinho? Maybe he would wait till see how that plays out. I don't know, but the fans are starting to turn on Levy. Yeah. And in the past, anytime the fans started, they're not booing Ange, they're booing in Levy. They're chanting chants against Levy, and he tends to respond well. And when anytime in the past when it's gone to him be getting the stick from the fans, he's tend to pull the trigger. So that's kind of where it is. They have potential in some young players that could develop with 2 years' time. Bergvall with a bit of physicality in midfield because he runs around, but he just is too light for the Premier League at the minute. So there is potential there. But you look at Slot, and Slot has one of the best records from the Netherlands and now in the Premier League for keeping players fresh and injury free and rotating them. And he doesn't like not play his regular time, but he makes tweaks, he takes them off early and that kind of stuff, and he manages the workload by the style of play. Ange does not do that. He makes them run around in the craziest headless fashion that is going to lead to injuries because of the demands he's putting his players. So he refuses to adapt, which leads to his players being injured, and then he complains about not having players. So for me, I feel like it's going to be cyclical. He's had his positive moments. He started off well, but since that initial 12 games when they were new to the league and his style was new,
they were going to win the league.
Found them out, and it's been
Yeah,
they're going to win the league.
Yeah, but like since they were found out, they've been very inconsistent and poor on regular occasions, with random games of being superb when it all clicked. You know, and it's been a steady decline since that point. So I feel like it's coming, whether he's waits till the summer or not, I don't know.
Yeah, and I suppose, again, just to give a shout out to Everton, who did stop a serious rot that had been going, and a first win for Moisey, and probably were value for more than the 3-2 scoreline probably suggested. In the end, they could have even been further in front, I think, when they were 3-0 up. So it's very much
I think you should shout out Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who looked like he was the Premier League striker that we all thought he could become about 10 years ago, and was rare tearing it up like. And then
I just had a feeling
teams making it look better. It was.
Yeah, I said to say in the WhatsApp, I go, this is the day that Moisey got his first win and DCL is going to turn it on. But like, it could only happen against Spurs. That was the only logic there, because Everton, of course, have been struggling severely. But it's a big win when you look at the teams around them that are severely struggling at present. That was a big win, and hopefully maybe it's something that they can build on. At least they're scoring goals now and creating more chances, getting more crosses into the box. So Moisey, you know, he might be the man to I suppose get them safe and get them into that new stadium. We're going to move on then. We're talking about a bit of chaos, so we're going to go back to you, Moss, because I don't even know where we start with this, but I watched the game myself and I couldn't get over from the United I've seen. I didn't see the Southampton game now, and in fairness to you, Moss, you did put a message in that was quite damning of the what you were watching on Thursday night. But I was very surprised, given the Man United performances I've seen over the last couple of weeks, for how poor I thought they were against Brighton. I think their only shot on goal was the penalty, but they never seemed to be able to get anything going. But what is going on between I know they got over the line against Southampton in the end, but a poor performance. That inconsistency that we've been here down this route before. You mentioned there about the fans beginning to turn already on him on the new manager, but like where are we? What you break it down for me, because I'm a bit just, I don't get it as to how it can go from being so. But I do, from the point of view that there are games where they're expected to take the game to the opponent, and under Ten Hag it was similar to be able to adapt to that. But what is it, Moss?
Like, this is three managers in a row that basically can put it up to other teams by playing counter-attacking football, sitting deep and break. Solskjaer tried to transition to a possession-based game with these players, majority of the same players. He lost his job. Ten Hag started off with counter-attacking football, compromised his views to what he thought, because he thought that's what he had, and never really managed to get it back, and lost again trying to move towards possession-based football. Amran is trying to get some level of possession-based football into them, and it's the same. Seems to be the same cycle repeating itself again. When he came in, I kind of thought that we would manage all right with Mazraoui and Dalot as our as your wing backs. But the more I went and looking at like Leverkusen, for example, or Inter Milan, who play a similar system, and their wing backs are at a whole different level. Like they attack like a proper winger. They go by people. They're up and down that field, and like Mazraoui and Dalot are naturally defenders, and you see that limitation. That limits the entire system going forward, because the width is what gives you space in his system, and we're pussyfooted a bit around back and forth because they're not attacking those spaces. You saw Dalot did it against Trent. Now I know Trent had a bad game, but it created opportunities when they were going by people and created space and opportunities to put the ball into the box. And like against Brighton, we just were up, like so lacking imagination. And we've come to expect it. Like that's 3 years in a row, Brighton, if not 4, they've either beaten us, or 3 years at Old Trafford they won. Like Brighton bet us to start the season with a last minute goal as well. Like, as in, it's just we can't do anything against them. But like they were poor. They were very poor, but it's become the norm, and I don't really know how you get out of that rut. Our midfield looks lackluster, or wing backs don't seem to be fit to go up and down it and beat players. Ahmad again is our only real bright spark, in that he's well able to press, and Xerxes, to compare to him, has been better the last game or two in terms of linking up the play, but it's still offering nothing in terms of creating goals. And you're wondering where it's going to go because you're stuck there. We're going to be stuck, realistically, Rashford's going nowhere. You're going to be stuck with him. Is he going to be just sitting getting 300 something grand?
You reckon that's it? You reckon he's got? There's no move for him.
AC Milan have pulled out of interest, and they seem to be the most likely. Barcelona, sure, they're such a shit show of a mess. God only knows how they'd make that work. Like, unless I think it's based on Astu Fati and whether he can be registered or he's injured for the rest of the season, or like it's all if buts and maybes. Casemiro was all talk and start system of the window of him going, and there's an complete lack. Like, there's no left footer on the left side. Like, he obviously doesn't trust Malacia to play him, and it's just so imbalanced. At the same time, you must have give credit to Brighton. Brighton have their two midfielders were absolutely bossed it.
Right.
Like, they're two 20-year-olds.
Saliba
and Adrina. I think I'm not sure exactly how you say it, but the two of them just were brilliant midfield. João Pedro walks around and sprints down. He goes down easily, but the swagger of him, and had like a soft enough goal disallowed. So like, they could have been more, and it falls back down to one other thing: is Onana is a terrible keeper. I have no time for him. His positional sense is awful. He pulls off ridiculous saves when he shouldn't, and then he can't save. He spills the ball like when there was no one near him. It makes no sense. He's had 10. I said this to the group. He's had David De Gea's time. He had 17 errors leading directly to a goal in the Premier League. In 2 years, Onana has 10. So like, there's no confidence coming up. There's issues left, right, and center. There's been money wasted, and I think we're just going to have to build it up from academy players and sharp, clever recruiting, and stick with Amron. I have a lot of faith. I know he came out and said we were the worst Man United team in the world or in history. Like, he openly said it, and people are giving him such stick about it. And I'm like, oh, how the players feel. And I was like, I don't give a shit how the players feel. It's a fair reflection of how they're performing and how they're acting. So if you can't deal with that, then you don't deserve to be at a club at United in the scrutiny you're going to get if you can't deal with someone telling you the truth. So that's
the difference with him, I suppose, is the expectation. It was low coming in, where Ten Hag and where things were at. So he will be given time. I know there is people calling for him to go already. You'd imagine.
Yeah, there's genuinely a cohort that don't comprehend that we are not what we were in the early 90s and 90s. Like, they expect him to come in and he's doing nothing. We're getting worse. We're like, we're not getting worse. Like, at least there's a plan. The stick you were beating Ten Hag with was that we have no structure and we don't know what we're doing. At least now Fanatic comes in and he knows exactly what he's doing, and they can't implement it, and you're still beating him up because he won't adapt. So like, you have to have some level of consistency in it.
Like. He's been told. He's said in several times in interviews that he's not going to change his style and his philosophy. So that he's made that very clear, I think, in several interviews. So is it going to be
like, if you look at Pep has a philosophy that he adapted as he went on, but it's still a general philosophy. Slot has a philosophy. Like, just because he wants to play a certain system, he tactically changes it from game to game if you watch it carefully. It's not like he's 4-4-2 or 3-4-5-2 or whatever that is, and you stay in your box and you don't move. Like, he's tactically flexible and is astute. It's just people don't like the system, and it's another stick to beat with, I think.
Yeah, I think, and I'd agree with you there on the stick, because like that he changed it up when he came to Anfield and he should have won that game. You know what I mean? So like, he has shown that already that he is tactically astute. So I don't think the system is necessarily the thing to be hanging your hat on. I think it's that there's an awful lot of average players there. With some average players like Onana, players that just aren't good enough for Man United, and that's going to take, again, a couple of transfer windows really to try and get him to get his own style of player in, the players that he wants.
And I think it's going to have to be a change of tact. It's not going to be signing big names. It'll have to be a more of a Brighton style where you bring in young players in development. That seems to be where they're going, and that takes time. And young players like make mistakes, so I don't know whether you're going to get the patience required.
Okay, well, we'll leave the Man United chat there, because I know we'll probably end up here again next week or
2 weeks time.
Yeah, but we'll leave that chapter there closed for now. So I want to move on just to Arsenal Villa, and I might go to you, Ronan, because I suppose you're very much a neutral here in the room regards to the title race and things like that. But again, it was another kind of performance from the Gunners where it looked like it was in their hands. They were cruising, but managed to not come away with 3 points, I felt, in on the balance of the game. What do you make it of Arsenal firstly, just maybe on the Gunners? It was it does seem they are missing some players, but there's been a couple of times this season in games where you've just felt that, they've you want to use the word fumble, Howard, no, that's the word using, or whatever you want to kind of say. Yeah, but that they've just dropped points at times, like in relation to the title race, the game itself. Maybe even you can talk about Villa as well if you want. But just what do you make of the Gunners in regards to their title bid and then maybe as a whole this season?
Well, I would keep an eye out, obviously, for the results. Now, obviously, since Rice went to them, because even though he's gone to Arsenal, I'm still a massive fan of Declan Rice. I'd be probably in the minority in that regard. But it's been very, the lack of an out-and-out striker. I'm sure it's been said on here before. Is just haunting them. You know what I mean? How they didn't go out in the summer and pay big for an out-and-out striker, because Havertz is not going to get you the goals to win your games. Jesus is not going to get you the goals to win your games. They have the spark there with Odegaard. I love watching them play. I haven't watched much of Arsenal, but as I said, I do keep an interest in what Rice is doing, because he was just phenomenal for us. Saka obviously is a big miss, So when's he due back, Howard?
On March.
March. Right. So the other night, 2-0 up, cruising. It's the old adage, 2-0, the worst lead in football. Do you sit back, absorb the pressure at the risk of conceding, or do you go on and get the third and kill the game? And Villa, Villa are such a dangerous side. They're one of the, for me, they're one of the most impressive sides this year. They're on occasion they can be hit and miss, but they're always dangerous. Watkins doesn't miss. Watkins, what Arsenal? How close would Arsenal be to Liverpool if they had a Watkins type player? When you think about it. I still not ruling Arsenal out of the title race by any means. Liverpool are due a blip. If they have a blip, if they pick up a few injuries, Liverpool have been, really kind of consistent, mainly due to their lack of injuries, really. I know Jota was out for a good bit and he's coming back and he's very influential.
He got injured again. He's out for a couple of weeks.
Is he? Okay. I was unaware of that. But as regards Arsenal, it's a striker situation that's killing them, because defensively, very good. Midfield, they got that little, Odegaard just pulls the strings when he's on the form. They got Rice then to back him up. Saka's a big miss, obviously, but if they had a number 9, I think it'd be much closer to Liverpool than is. But you look at that game, they're the games you have to win. You're 2-0 up against Villa. See it out. Another, and all I saw on my bloody X stream after was how was that ball ruled out at the end? It's a handball, clear as day.
Clear handball.
A clear handball. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. And you have Arsenal fans going, here it's corrupt. FA against us here and whatnot. But what are there 6 points behind? Howie, am I right?
Yeah, but they played an extra game.
Yeah, played an extra game. Yeah, but Moyes will have everything right up for that Merseyside derby in a few weeks. Don't worry about Howie.
Hopefully.
But I think the lack of an out-and-out striker once again will, no more than last year, will probably come back to haunt him in the end. But,
okay, and Howard, over to you then. So, what's your feelings on the game? Arsenal in general.
I don't think. Yeah, I like to be honest. I don't think Arsenal are playing very differently and compared to the first half of last season. I think it's very similar. Their points tally, just the way they've been playing, struggling to score. We've seen it all before. I really think they haven't. There's a few times I watched the games and even the Villa goals, they're just so clinical, you know what I mean? I think sometimes, Watkins puts that over the bar or something. I think just things just are not going right for them. I know that Saliba penalty against Brighton. They're just so, I say it every week on this thing, and it doesn't feel like they don't feel like they have the bit that champ between the teeth that they're going to win it this season. And I don't think things are going for them well with Odegaard and Saka, and now Saliba. Like if Saliba was playing that game the weekend, they don't concede that second goal. Like Partey goes walkabout, and doesn't follow his man, and Watkins just taps it in at the back post. Like it's like this is what happens when you play your midfielder right back. Like so, if they had Saliba and Timber there, that just doesn't happen. So it's like it's the little tiny, the smallest issues. And as Albertino says, the inches, them little inches that happen that get you over the line, and Arsenal are just lacking it slightly. And I'd love if what'll happen is if they don't sign a striker or an attacking player in the next 10 days, there's going to be a bit of upheaval within the fan base. So they really need to do something, because you can just tell the fans are right on the edge now of like going one way or the other. And I think
and how it's trying to come in there, like
yeah.
Would you be on the? Do you think that fans calling for Arteta's head are moronic or
moronic? Absolute moronic.
Yeah,
absolute moronic. I think it's absolute like. There's no way, like people are quick to forget where we were before Arteta. Like, you know, there's it's amazing what he's done with the club. And this idea, I think it comes from partially a lot of people, maybe some fans not actually liking Arteta as a person. They don't actually like him. So like anytime they kind of want rid of him just because of the character maybe he is and stuff like that. Okay. But they forget all the work he's done. So I don't take any, or even them fans that were on about the handball running, like, you know, that's like, you know, you're always going to get daft fans in a fan base online that have a voice that are just doing it for the sake of it, or just to get noticed.
Arsenal fan TV.
Arsenal fan
TV. Bam, blood.
Oh, there's some head cases on that, like.
I heard one or two of them, and they wanted our 10. That's why I was interested that there is.
I just feel
murmurs.
I feel there's a signing coming. I really do, but it's if it doesn't happen, there's going to be issues. You know what I mean? There's going to be issues. And Arteta, you can tell every interview he's been given, he's like, he basically said, like, you look at Liverpool, they were able to bring on who they were able to bring on, who were we able to bring on, like Tierney. Like, you know, we were like, he's making a valid point that like they're struggling, they're very light, like. So he's been spelling it out. So we'll see.
Yeah, can I just throw one thing into the mixer though? He did push, from what I remember back in the summer, to sign Sterling. That was his. He pushed.
Oh,
he pushed
I'd say.
Well, it was a compromise.
I say they pushed when that was the only option. Like they signed him at the very end. I think they were mad to get Nico Williams. They were mad to get Nico Williams, and they put in an offer for Sesko. And he decided to stay, so they're like, right, we'll come back for you next year. And like sometimes Arsenal are great at saying, you know, well, we'll wait, like Declan Rice, we'll wait and we'll get our man. We'll wait, we'll bide our time, get our man when we can, like even if it means missing a season or two. But this is what happens when they're trying to wait for the perfect time to get the striker. They're missing so much time to get the striker in. You know, you might have to wait to get your number one target, or wait for 2 summers to get him. Like go to someone else. Like, you know what I mean? So I think
you can't, like, for beating Arteta, Howard, like for the fans that are going on Arteta, like systematically, they created chances in every single game, a load of chances.
Yeah,
they can't. It's not like, oh, their system isn't working and they can't defend against. Like, they create a ridiculous amount of chances that they just don't finish. So that's not on your manager. Like, your manager can't put the ball in the back of your net. Like, he can set you up as best as possible and train and have a system.
Rossi, I 100% agree with you. Like, I look at some of the chances, even in that Tottenham game, where like they've intercepted the ball high up, and like Sterling and Havertz are like passing it between themselves, and there's a fucking goal there. Just put the ball in. Like if you had a Gyökeres or Isaac or whatever, like it's back in the net 2 seconds. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like it's pulling your hair out stuff. Like, so they do have like, I do like Havertz as a player, but he's not a killer like in front of goal. Like, you know, he's just not, like, you know, so they're screaming out for someone in the box to just, as soon as they get a chance, back in the net.
So do you think if they don't sign an attacking player in the next 10 days, I do feel, because I know earlier you were quite confident.
I think with Saka
around
gone,
the league. Yeah, with Saka gone,
like you're going to struggle for goals. Once, like, if Saka was still there, you could say, okay, well, they might have he could get another 10, 15 goals. But with him gone, like you're like they need a striker. If they want to win a Champions League, they're gonna need a striker. Like, it's tricky.
Okay, well, we'll finish up, just wrap up with the rest of the results. I suppose I will start with the Liverpool win against Brentford. And look, it's interesting what we want to look at it in the sense of, like, I kind of feel you could argue that Liverpool's last couple of results was a blip, given the kind of, I referenced it last week on the pod that the Brentford and Forest, they really should be taking 6 points now. Like, in the end, they could have won the Forest game. You can't forget, like, in probably up to the 60-minute mark, of how poor they actually were really within the game. They didn't have a shot, I don't think, really of notice. And against Brentford, even though they had 37 shots from watching the 90 minutes, it didn't feel like that again. It felt like the play was very slow. They didn't look great, really, in my opinion. But they managed to get, the Uruguayan Slayer come off the bench and scored. And, like, maybe that's a kind of maybe a kickstart for them again, because I do feel in the last couple of games that the levels have dropped. Salah has been off song. And, like, they got the 3 points, it's big in the end considering what way the Arsenal result went in particular. But I didn't feel that they were great against Brentford, regardless of the amount of the shot count, whatever like that. Brentford could have been 2 up in the first half. In the transition phase, like, we were very open, which we have looked. Since Christmas, we have looked like he can score goals and get chances against us, which wasn't the case in the first half of the season. So I'm still very much of the opinion that the title race is still well and truly on. It was just a really good result for Liverpool to have got the late winner in Arsenal. Drop point. I just think it's going to be a bit like that. I do. I don't feel that Liverpool are going to go like to the start of the season and win like 5 or 30 games in a row.
You'd rather be chasing Liverpool than City anyway. Like, that's the
I do.
I get that. I think, like, the game at the weekend, like, you could have went either way. Like, there was a Brentford had a couple of chances when they were on the transition, and kind of like maybe if they'd played the ball into a different area of the box, there could have been a lad open where it happened. Like, but it just didn't fall to them. And I think for the equalizer, or for the winner, like, Trent does get a bit fortunate when he goes through and your man makes the tackle, and then it kind of deflects back onto him, and then Trent, like, in fairness, Trent's so good at that, just like firing it in across. But a lot of other time that ball goes out for a corner, or the tackle doesn't come back to him. I just think these little inches are just going. They're just going right for Liverpool at the moment. They're in a good headspace, and they're in a good form. And, like, even if they're not on their top form, you're still. I was watching the game with 10 minutes left, and I was talking to one of the lads. I was like, Liverpool are going to get a goal here. I just know it, like, you just know.
Yeah,
it did
feel like that we were, like, suffering definitely for the last 25-30 minutes. Brentford were mainly camped in their own box, and in fairness, defended very well for a majority of that time. Liverpool didn't have too many edge chances, but look, they got the 3 points. But I just feel I have this feeling that if Liverpool can up their levels in the first half of the season, it's going to be a bit of tit for tat with Arsenal around both sides dropping points. It's going to be a low enough, I think, point count anyway that will win the league. But I do feel at the moment if Liverpool go back,
nobody's mentioning Nottingham Forest. No, 44 points level with Arsenal. No, we just disregard them.
It's kind of one of the things that if they're there come the middle of March, I might talk about them more. But no, in fairness, they have been excellent.
They pushed Liverpool hard during midweek.
Absolutely. They'll push everybody hard, Mossy, though they will. And, like, you look at they haven't got really any injuries of note. They have a really settled side, really settled system. Like, they could have actually given away that third. Last ditch. But in general, they are very solid. And look, I still can't come round to the idea of them winning the league. But, like, put it this way, if we're talking that Liverpool and Arsenal are consistently going to keep dropping points, well, Forest keep turning out the wins at the moment, and we'll see where we go come maybe March time around, maybe the mighty Forest. But that'll be my kind of take anyway on the game. And great to see Nunes get a couple of goals, well overdue. And who knows, maybe Captain Chaos can go on a bit of a run now and start banging in a few. Just other results then quickly. Fulham got another great win away at Leicester. Rude is really under it now at the moment, I think. Palace getting the result away West Ham. Teta seems to be flying again, getting that form that he had at the tail end of last season. So they seem to have come back to a bit of form. Bournemouth's result was just outrageous again, going to Newcastle, who were looking for their 10th win in a row and battering them, and properly well-deserved win. Massey, I know you're a big fan of Irola, and
yeah, I think they're so good to watch. Like, and they are missing. They have an injury list of about 6, 7 players
the
who will be in the
strikers.
first team squad, at least in the squad for the matchday squad usually. And they still look excellent. Like Justin Kluivert has really come onto his own this season. Um, Senesi is missing, and like a few of those, and they just looked phenomenal. They played Newcastle off the park, and that's Newcastle, who were the most formed team in the league coming into it.
Yeah.
So it's
like,
very
like,
impressive.
like you love just love like the likes of your Brightons, your Bournemouth, your Brentfords, like well-run clubs, well-structured clubs. Recruitment is of the highest caliber, and and like young managers who are willing to give players a chance. Like it's fantastic, and they're getting the rewards now. And it's great to see that Brentford. Is it Bournemouth and Brighton? They're in the top 7 now, So now whether they can sustain it is another thing. But like, it's brilliant. It's refreshing, really.
It's definitely one of them years that say, like, obviously Chelsea are playing tonight, just kicking off. But like they're on through a bit of a blip there, where they were the main title contenders nearly to Liverpool there a couple of weeks ago. But you look at it, like the likes of a Bournemouth, I know again depending on what way City go in the second half of the season, but with fifth place potentially in that Champions League spot looking likely, like there is, you look at Forest ticket at the moment, they look like they're going to get a Champions League spot, but the fifth one is going to be a bit of a dogfight, and the European spots definitely, because you have Fulham, Brighton,
Aston Villa,
Bournemouth, Villa. They're on, and as you said, like they're well structured, well run clubs, and they give any of the top teams a game and could easily take points and win them games. There's definitely, I think, some of the new managers that have come into the league, in particular Irola, like
I think it's easier to have a smaller non-legacy club and run them well with the money that they're coming in. True. They realistically have their choice of manager. The money that they're taking from TV rights, etc., and the league, they are basically able to buy nearly any player. They compete with everyone bar maybe like the top Madrid's, like in terms of Italy, all those type of players. They're able to buy them, be very competitive with that. Like without the pressure of this legacy, or it used to be this type of club. And there's Bournemouth and Brighton in particular are 2 excellent examples of that. And Brentford, again, another small club that have done very well since promotion. So I do think that there is that element to it. But like what Areola is doing with Bournemouth team that was left by Gary O'Neill and it was questionable. Like people like maybe it was probably a bit harsh to sack him. And you see what he's doing with them now is just unbelievable.
100%. And I do think as well, money wise, like, as you said, they're the well-run clubs, but like with the money that's in the Premier League at the moment, and they seem to be able to find players that can suit systems and can then be sold on. Like Brighton being the best example of that, like the amount of money that they've, and I think Aliba, whenever that time comes, I think will be the next one that's going to go for a monstrous amount of money. We're going to fly on then just to Super 6. So my brother Richard, his lead is 5 points at the moment, or over Darren Mitchell. It's quite tight there at the top now, and Damien McDermott there in third. Remember, anyone that's involved in our league there's €100 to the winner of this league. My brother has already got a spent in his head. I really do hope that somebody knocked him off his perch, because every weekend I'm here in our group, I got that correct score right, and it's fucking annoying. So anyway, we're going to go on to Super 6, so we're just going to go through the games. There's Champions League this week for anyone who is playing Super 6. There is Champions League games. Champions League is back. And I'm going to start with you, Ronan. So we have Liverpool at home to Lille. Give us your prediction of score.
3-0 Liverpool.
3-0 Liverpool, okay. And Benfica, Barcelona.
2-1 Barcelona.
2-1 to the Barca, okay. And Mossy, going to you, Atletico Madrid and Bayer Leverkusen.
Yeah, I was just find this one really hard to call because Atletico are home and are in a great run of form, but they lost at the weekend, surprisingly enough, and Leverkusen are streaking 9 wins in the Bundesliga. So, I think I'm going to go 2-1 to Atletico simply because they're at home. Easily could be a 2-2 draw or something along those lines, but I think I'll lean towards Atletico.
Okay, and a big game in terms of the Champions League as a whole. PSG City.
2-2.
2-2, okay.
What would that mean?
Okay.
I don't know. I just don't fancy them. Big pressure game. Could be 2-0 up and throw it away or something, but I just can't have confidence in the minute.
Dan is gone, is he?
Dan frozen. Go on,
Right,
right.
Sorry, Dan, we lost you for a sec there.
Sorry. So we're Arsenal, Dynamo Zagreb.
Oh, that'll be a tough one now. That'll be a tough game. Them
Arsenal
Careful now, Howard. You want to get carried?
Croats coming over. Oh, I'll go 2-0 Arsenal.
Okay, good luck to the Arsenal. And Celtic against the Young Boys.
Oh, the old boys versus the young boys. Huh? The Scots versus where are the young boys from again?
Swedish.
Switzerland, isn't it?
Switzerland, yeah.
Really, Swiss. They're
Swiss,
very youthful look about them, don't they? The young boys. I'll go for a 2-0 Celtic. They're doing all right these days, Celtic, in the old Champions League. So
yeah, well, they make the knockouts now anyway, which was, I suppose, that's worth a good few pound, I think, to even just get to that stage. So 2-0 for Celtic. Okay, perfect. That's our Super Six. A reminder to anyone out there: there's £100 up for grabs. So Howard, I just noticed that you've stopped doing it. Yeah, I seen you didn't do it this week.
I missed about 2 weekends in a row, and then I was like, I kept missing it, so I was like, I threw in the towel. I was like, because it's a fair commitment. Because I always remember the fancy, because like you're doing your team, and you're doing it every you're doing your team and you're doing it every few every few days, and you're looking at it, but like this is like it's so easy to forget, and the midweek ones as well. So I've given up. Moss is running the flag for the podcast, aren't you, Moss?
What do you reckon, Moss?
I'm still 6th or 7th in it now, Howard. I wouldn't be too
excited
about it. Don't be forgetting.
Right, okay. Well, that is Super Six. So we'll just finish up then with fantasy football.
Massage Dan Digo a little bit here, will we?
Well, I don't know why the lead as
let's skip fantasy football.
The lead as I referenced in our chat, my lead is dwindling like my hairline. So things are not going great.
And your beard line.
Yeah. There's 9 points is what it's down to now with the game tonight.
You need to go over to Turkey, Dan, and play some fancy football over there, maybe. Get some work done.
I'll try and get you a striker over there, will I? Get you a striker as well in the morning.
You got a Solskjaer's got over there, lads.
Yeah. So anyway, fantasy football wise, Padraig Clark has been having a cracking month, escaped from victory, and he is hunting me down. Big time. He's had another decent, strong enough week. Seemed most people captain Salah, majority did, so that was another blank. But yeah, it's very tight at the top of fantasy football. I see, Mossy, you had probably not a regular occurrence, which was a good week in fantasy. Would you like to talk about it and explain your bench boost?
Not really, to be honest. I just gambled and threw Phil Foden in because I was like, fuck it, I need to do something to improve my record here. So he was a nice one, but like Isak was quiet, Salah was quiet. So
can I ask you about the bench boost? Because it wouldn't be the norm that someone would bench boost with the goalkeeper that doesn't play.
I couldn't decide who. I couldn't decide between Ahmad and Rodgers, so I was like, fuck it, I'll just use the bench boost and then it'll be right. That was as much thought that went into it, and it was like last minute. It was like 10:58. It was like crap. So that's what it was.
And Howard, hang on, just looking at you here. Howard, anything you want to say fantasy football related?
I suppose what I'd like to ask is, what is the story with this other chip? Maybe have we talked about it already? I tell you what,
it is going to be a system manager chip, and it's that each manager will be valued. And what we'll do is that it's starting, I think, in like 2 game weeks. What we'll do is we will cover it in detail actually about it, but it will kind of throw the cat amongst the pigeons, because you have to use your money from your value. Like managers are valued at like 1.5 million, for example, some of the big ones. So you're going to have to try and make that budget available to play the chip. And you play it once basically, so you have to decide who you're going to pick it. And anyway, I think we'll go into it in more detail.
But when is Liverpool's double game week?
Liverpool have a double game week in 2 weeks' time. They're going to be playing Bournemouth and Everton, so that will be that'll be the first. And
that's a hard game week.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. There was talk that it'd be the Wolves. They'd have Wolves at home and Everton away, but it's actually the week either before or after that. So. It's a dodgy enough one. It's not looking as attractive as maybe the triple captain of Salah might have looked, but also, it looks as if Spurs were to manage to get to the Carabao Cup final themselves, and Fulham, I think it is, will have a double game week coming up if Spurs manage to get there or something as well, or something around Spurs, I think, as well, and Fulham. So,
yes, there's no relying on Spurs to do anything. So.
No, Ange always wins a trophy in the second season.
This is it. This is it.
Can't forget that, lads.
And he will get serious amount of abuse if he gets knocked out of all the competitions over the next couple of weeks. He will be, that'll be another stick to beat him with. But so look, that's pretty much fantasy football again. For the winner of fantasy football, you will get a jersey of your choice, sponsored by Declan O'Connor, and that is pretty much fantasy football and everything this week. Gents, anything quickly there before we finish that you'd want to throw in?
No, thanks. Just want to say thanks for having me on, and I hope I enlightened you about the West Ham way.
Man, I can't wait to see this, honestly. And if you are out there listening, please make sure to subscribe. They're on YouTube, follow us on all on other social media, and get us on Spotify as well. Follow us on Spotify, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the numbers. That's all I can say.
The West Ham way.
The ultimate question has been answered, lads.
Anything else, lads, before we finish? No? Anything?
All good, Dan.
No, all good.
Any words of wisdom?
Dan.
No?
Thanks,
all
man.
good. Okay. Look, lads, thanks very much. Thanks for everyone who's been listening to us and following us. That's 60 episodes in, and we will surely have Declan O'Connor back, and we will try and get Ronan on again, the mighty hammer, between now and the end of the season.
Happy to come on again, lads.
All right. Till next time, take care. Have a nice week.
Thanks. Bye.